Now we move away from the Power 5 to the oh-so-beloved MACtion that will be coming your way sooner rather than later. So here's where we're going to go. Let's start with the win totals on the east side of the MAC. And one thing you will notice is that this would be determined by many to be a slightly weaker version of the conference. Doesn't mean the entire portion's weak. As you see Buffalo up there at 7.5. They were your runner-up last year in 2019, losing in the MAC championship game, but working our way through. Bowling Green and Akron, well, you'll be betting against them plenty
like to
this
pick
year.
on them.
Oh, yeah, quite a bit. Now, let's take a look at the other side of the MAC, which would be the West. And right there is where you're going to have the defending champions of Ball State sitting at 7.5, but they're not at the top of the list. It's the Rockets of Toledo at 8.5. And then your various Michigans from Central to East to West to North to Midwest, you name it, you got it. Just a few years ago, Northern Illinois was a powerhouse back then, and now they find themselves in the cellar. So here's where we're going to begin. Toledo has the highest win total of any at 8.5 in the entire conference, but they've got the third best odds to win the conference at plus 450. They're trailing Buffalo, who's plus 280, and Ball State at plus 350. So let's start with who you're betting to win the MAC. I don't want to talk win totals just yet. We'll get to that. Who would you bet to win this conference?
I'm going to bet on a team that's not really favored. It's one of the directional Michigan schools.
Ooh.
And I'm a West guy. I moved west. We're now out west. Western Michigan is a team I'm going to bet at 10-1. I guess this seems like it's a wide open. Yeah, a nice little payout here. But this seems like it's a more wide open version of the MAC than we've seen in recent years. Buffalo has been such a good school, and we might talk about them, but they've had a lot of turnover. Western Michigan might have the best quarterback in the entire MAC. His name is Caleb Ellaby, and last year he was third in the nation in all of FBS football in passing efficiency behind only Mac Jones and Zach Wilson. Heard of them? They turned into first-round NFL draft picks. Not saying Ellaby is going to be that, but that's the talent that he brings. Big arm, mobility, can create plays off script. The guy last year in 6 games accounted for 22 touchdowns, 18 through the air, and 4 on the ground. And that was his first year as starter. Now with a full functional offseason without as many hindrances from the pandemic as last year, I think LB could lift them from the middle of the pack in the MAC to the top.
I like it. There were a lot of favorites played through the Power 5 because there's only so many options there. Like, are you going to bet against Alabama? And if so, you're going to take a team like Georgia. I'll see your 10-1 and I'll raise you. I'll go to 14-1.
What?
Give me the Kent State Golden Flashes. There's 2 reasons to like this, one of which is their path to cashing this 14-1 ticket. We showed you the East versus the West earlier. The East, very weak. Buffalo is a weak top seed in the East. They lost their entire coaching staff very late in the game. They took the Les Miles vacancy over in Kansas, so they had to replace the coaching staff quickly. You had a bunch of turnover with the transfer portal, as Tyler was alluding to earlier. Buffalo's going to be down, and you're in a division with Akron and Bowling Green who are going to be bringing up the rear. So there's really only a couple horses who are in this race here. So you get to the MAC championship game where you're likely going to be overmatched, but with a ticket of 14-1, you can hedge off that. Great opportunity to guarantee yourself a profit. Oh, by the way, Kent State bringing back 18 starters from last year's team, including star quarterback Dustin Crum, who leads one of the best offenses in the MAC, very deep on the offensive line as well. So that would be what we're thinking for prices in terms of winning the MAC. When you go into the win totals, over, under, what popped out?
Well, if I have the Western Michigan Bronx as a team as a team that could win the MAC, and their win total we saw was just 6, I'm probably going to go over that as well.
Attaboy.
Correlation is key here. So over 6. Let's start with their schedule. They have 2, I think, winnable Power 5 non-conference road games. At Michigan. Sorry, Jim Harbaugh. Your team doesn't scare me anymore.
Jimmy.
And at Pittsburgh. Pat Narduzzi, your team doesn't really scare me that much anymore. So 2, I'm not saying they will win, but those aren't
winnable.
Alabama, Clemson, Oklahoma type non-conference road games. They get Ball State at home. They avoid Ohio and Miami of Ohio on the schedule. 2 of the, better teams on the eastern side. And again, Caleb Ellaby, I think is going to be one of the better quarterbacks, not just in the MAC, but maybe in the entire country this season. So 10-1 to win. over 6 on the win total.
Gonna have to get you a Western Michigan jersey for the season. You are heavily invested. When it comes to win totals, I'm gonna go under on the aforementioned Buffalo Bulls. Don't tell my wife or my in-laws because they all went there, but they're used to the slander by now, so it shouldn't be much of a surprise. This is a direct result of what we talked about earlier, losing the entire coaching staff and 10 players to the transfer portal. Buffalo hired Maurice Linguist as their head coach. He could be a good head coach, but he's never been a head coach before. He was coaching defensive backs for the Dallas Cowboys last season. That's a bit of an issue. And this win total went from 8.5 down to 8, down to 7.5. So the money is coming in against Buffalo. Ultimately, they're still sitting there as the favorites in the East. I think that's a mistake, which we talked about. So under 7.5 wins for the Buffalo Bulls.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.